switching gears. This is the one I told you to do about. So this is fracture heavy. This is the difficult one. I would say, you know, it may help you to read the book on this one. Not like for the depth of surgical procedures and stuff, but because this one tends to be a little confusing, the names of the fractures tend to be confusing for people. My advice on the names, and I'll show you them shortly, is just not to like look at the whole big long name and panic and say, oh God, I don't know what that means. But like to just break apart the little parts. So if it talks about the proximo-axial blah, 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 you know, just think about what those things mean and look at the radiograph and kind of just put yourself where what it's actually describing. Otherwise, it can really be overwhelming, the length of the names. All right, so anatomy review. This bone is what? Kaufman bone. This guy? Navicular. This guy? Short pastern bone, also called the P2, yeah. And this guy? Or, okay. Reminder for the exam, P1 is this, P3 is this. Every year I got somebody just mixing it up in their brain and saying P3 and P1. I can't really give you a super hint to that, just try not to forget that. You guys yeah. Morbid, but I like it. Okay. So you die at the end of your life. So the coffin bone is last, like 1, 2, 3. Good for Halloween. These guys here? Yeah. That's what it is. I'm just referring to. And this bone here? Yeah, which is this one, right? Okay. What metacarpus is this? 3, right? They're standing like that. And what are these little guys? Splints. Which side is number 2 on, medial or lateral? Medial, but don't worry about the carpusy stuff yet. Remember, this is the accessory carpal bone? Okay? And that is going to be lateral. That's a really useful anatomic marker, just like the calcaneus being lateral. I don't need you to know all of these, but I want to point out a couple things on here. So we're looking at the fetlock from the side here, right? So here's your cannon bone, that's your third metacarpus, here's the end of the splint right there. 2 really important synovial structures there. This green one here is the fetlock joint, the joint itself, fetlock joint, and then the one in pink is the flexor tendon sheath. So this is a tendon sheath, this is a joint capsule, but they're both synovial structures right next to each other. Keep in mind also that the fetlock, the tendon sheath goes all the way down to like, and almost at the bottom of the picture. So if this is effusive and if this fills up like a water balloon, you're going to see some bulges here. You won't see it right here because I've got this annular ligament wrapping around the back of it like a little seatbelt. Okay? So if there's effusion in here, I'm going to see a bulge above and a bulge below the annular ligament. We'll get to more of that when we talk about the tendon ligament. What did I call the effusion we saw in that picture last week here? It was like that chestnut horse with the poopy things right above the wing cups. Good. Really, it's just effusion of the bone.
It's kind of like what
Okay. I'm not sure why I put this up here, but anyway, suspensory ligament right there, superficial digital flexor tendon, deep digital flexor tendon, check ligament. Okay, let's finish with this, and then we'll break for lunch. This is an important thing, and if you guys have trouble with this, I don't know how much of it is taught in radiology. So I'm going to give you a couple different ways to figure out where the heck you are when you're looking at an oblique radiograph of something, especially when it doesn't have anatomical variations from side to side that are really significant. There's 3 methods. So how do you tell, if you had this radiograph and no one remembered to, well, never mind. If you had this radiograph and you've got this little marker on here, and let's say you have something or other going on here, and I say, well, where is that? Is that the medial or the lateral side? And you're like, well, I don't know. So how do I tell what side I'm looking at on either side? Which is what we're trying to do. sometimes you have a joint that has a really useful anatomical marker. The hock and the carpus. Okay. Calcaneus is on what side? Lateral. And the accessory carpal bone is on what side? Yes. So remember that these guys are always lateral. If you're looking at a DP view, and you know if you see your accessory carpal bone on one side, you know that's the lateral side. Okay. Here's another way. Flipping the letters. Now I'm going to go through this a couple times because I think this is confusing. So if I have a DLPMO view, which I have over here, right? It says DLPMO. I want to be able to tell what sides am I looking at, this side and this side, the edges. What edges am I looking at here? I'm not looking at the middle right now. What edges am I looking at? One trick is to just take the L and the M in the name of the view and flip them. So if I have a DL, I would flip it to DM. PM flips to PL. And that tells you what sides of the joint you're looking at. Okay, so this is a DLPMO view, so I know I'm looking at the dorsomedial and the palmar-lateral sides. I know sesamoids are on the back, so this is the palmar-lateral side. So this must be my lateral sesamoid. Dorsomedial, I know this is the front, this is the dorsal aspect, because I know my sesamoids are on the back. So this has got to be dorsal. So this is my dorsomedial aspect of the joint. How are we doing with that?
What do you mean?
No? Go ahead. Yes.
I get that. If you go to the dorsal medial, it has to come out from the lateral, right?
Not
Can
sure.
you do it one more time?
I'm going to do it one more time. One thing to remember is that when you're looking at a joint like that, when you're looking at a radiograph, most of the stuff in the middle, you're looking at a bunch of stuff summated on top of each other. So it's not great to evaluate the middle of the radiograph. So usually we're evaluating the edges of the radiograph. I know that doesn't quite make sense for like looking at diagonals and stuff like that, but like when we're looking at a joint here, I'm mostly going to see a fracture or an OCD or something like that on the edges of the radiograph. The middle, I have bone, 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 bone. Too many things to look through. Does that make sense? Okay. So I have a DLPMO view, which is a dorsolateral palmar-medial oblique radiograph. That's the way the radiograph is generated. It's going from the dorsolateral side to palmar-medial side. So the quick and dirty trick, I'm going to show you a different way in a minute that's going to maybe make this more sense, is to just take these letters and flip them. So if this is my view, and the question is, what are the edges of the joint that I'm looking at? I would take it to DL, I just change it to a DM. And if I have a PM, change it to a PL. So all I'm doing is flipping where the M and the L are. And then that automatically tells me which edges of the radiograph I'm looking at. Okay, so if you're looking at that one up there, I know one side of the radiograph is the dorsomedial, and the other side of the radiograph is the palmar-lateral. Now I know my sesamoids are on the back, right? So that has to be a palmar or something side. But I know in this view, I flipped it, and so that's the palmar-lateral side. So the sesamoid that's hanging off the back there has to be my lateral sesamoid, because I'm looking at the palmar-lateral side of the radiograph. So I know sesamoids are on the back. I flip this to make it a PL. So this is the palmar-lateral side of the joint, which means that this has to be my lateral sesamoid. So if I had a little chip lesion here on a dorsolateral palmar-medial oblique radiograph, I know this is the dorsal side, and I can't remember whether it's the dorsomedial or dorsolateral. I just changed this from an L, DL, to a DM, and I knew already it was dorsal, but now I know that it's the dorsomedial side. So I would see this chip on the dorsomedial aspect of the joint. Now I know it's time. This is the last of the things to kind of explain. Do you mind if I just finish this? It's going to make more sense. Alright, this is the horse's edge. So this is his front leg and this is his right front leg, right? Left front leg, right front leg. Okay. So, when I have a view, like I have a radiographic view, I'm writing it the way it is taken. So, tell me if I have a dorsolateral palmomedial oblique radiograph, where am I holding my generator? Where's the beam start? Here, right? Alright, so here's my generator. Like that, right? Dorsolateral side, palmomedial side. Good so far? Okay. Now, remember what I told you about what sides of the radiograph you can most easily evaluate. So where the beam goes here, look how much stuff it's got to go through. All these bones and all the stuff that happens in the middle of the joint. I don't see that well. There's too much stuff to really evaluate something. What I do see really well is the edges. Okay. So if I know I have a DLPMO view, I make the joint into a square. Just make it into a square so I can label it medial, lateral, and then I draw where the beam comes in. And then I know that I don't see the stuff in the middle well, like including right here and including right here, but I see these really well. So what side is this? Dorso what? Dorsomedial. And what side is this? Palmarolateral. So if I have a DLPMO view, what are the sides that I can see on the radiograph really nicely? Dorsomedial and palmarolateral. So that's this square that I talked about. Now also, does that make sense with what I just said? DL turns into DM. PM turns into PL. Take a little time to practice this. This square method is like the single best way I've ever found to figure out what you're looking at. So dorsomedial here is this one, palmarolateral is this one here. Alright. I know that takes a few times for some people. Feel free to come and chat with me and we'll go over it a few more times. Otherwise, thank you guys for staying a couple extra minutes. And I will see you at 1. Or 1:10.